Good morning, everyone. My name is Will Perhinerato, and today we are going to encounter in critiquing self-constructed questionnaire survey. But first, we must know what is the purpose of the research questionnaire. Now, the main purpose of a questionnaire is to extract data from respondents. Now, how do we know if it is relevant? If the questionnaire is reliable, clear, and valid, we can say that the questionnaire is relevant. Now let us begin. As you can see from the screen, this type of questionnaire is an open-ended type of questionnaire survey. Now, the questionnaire compared to the standard is more likely the same and relevant with each other. As you can see, this is an open-ended questionnaire and its goal is to write free-form answers, giving them freedom to elaborate on experiences with a longer response. Therefore, this questionnaire is one that is written and administered so all participants are asked precisely the same questions in an identical format and responses recorded in a uniform manner. Typically, open-ended questions starts with a how, tell, or why. The interesting part here is that open-ended questions allow people to provide more descriptive answers where they can give their own perspectives as opposed to choosing a pre-written answer. Now, if you plan to use open-ended questions or invite free text comments, you must plan in advance how you will analyze this data, such as drawing on the skills of a qualitative research if necessary. You must also build into this study design adequate time, skills, and resources for this analysis. Otherwise, you will waste participants' and researchers' time. If you do not have time or expertise to analyze free text responses, do not invite any. Now, the advantages of open-ended questionnaires, as you can see from this example, from this type of questionnaire alone, its advantages is it gets detailed responses. Open-ended questions require more in-depth answers, producing more meaningful results. Now the next is, it collects unexpected answers. Now you may collect feedback you wouldn't otherwise have anticipated. A good example for this is problems with a product or service. Now the third advantage you can get here is a build an understanding of your audience. The information allows you to build profiles on your target population, such as demographics, hopes, and fears. The next that you can get from this advantage is no limitations. This is because respondents aren't restricted in any way, giving them the freedom to be honest. The next thing is you don't need a large respondent pool. Even with a smaller research population, you'd still collect ample data for analysis and discussion. Generally, you don't have to collect as many as responses for open-ended questions or feedback to be useful. But if you're struggling to get enough feedback, then you should consider more ways on finding survey participants. But the bad thing here, or the disadvantages in using open-ended questions, is that its answers can be time-consuming for respondents. It is because open questions can be more time-consuming for participants, meaning they're likely to experience survey fatigue. Next is response analysis takes more time. It is because analyzing responses also takes more time and effort. The third disadvantage is open feedback is more personal and less general. The results are generally qualitative and meaning you cannot generalize them in a wide population. Lastly, questions are more open to interpretation. If your question is framed or worded incorrectly, there is a risk of influencing answer choices. Example is leading questions, loaded words, and phrases. Now my suggestion for this questionnaire is to have improvements. First, this questionnaire shouldn't write leading questions. Now, the whole point of an open question is to allow respondents to write a unique answer. If you influence their responses by writing leading questions, your data will not be truthful. Next is ensure all questions are necessary. Draft a list of questions and identify those most important to meeting your research goals you want your questionnaire to be as short as possible. Otherwise, you're risk taxing participants which will lead to answer dishonesty or dropouts. The third thing for my suggestion here is use open-ended and close-ended questions. This will provide you with both statistical and inferential data, giving you fuller understanding of your target population and a source to draw from in your conclusion. Now, second to the last I can say from my suggestion is avoid why questions. Now, why questions avoided from, why did I say that why questions should be avoided? Now, not all respondents can give a reason for something or provide a reason for something or may not be aware of their reasoning for things. In these cases, it's possible for respondents to make up these reasons without necessarily believing them. This will negatively impact your results. And lastly, don't write questions that elicit one-word response. Now, when writing your questions, frame them in a way that requires a story rather from one or two-word answer. The more engaging a question is, the more likely you are to receive a genuine response. Now, in conclusion, or to summarize all the things that I have said, this open-ended question can be said as a standard, can be compared to the standard. But if I were to say, this can give more improvements if it applies from my suggestions to avoid to avoid biases, and to avoid negative or misinterpretation, or they can experience fatigue from their responses. Now, I hope that you have learned many things, and I hope that you will remember two things from my discussion critiquing this research survey about these open-ended questions, that each questionnaire survey is not perfect. It has its own advantages and disadvantages. And the last thing is, the goal for this research questionnaire is to avoid biases, and as much as possible, this research questionnaire should be valid, clear, and reliable. Thank you so much for listening, and may God bless us all.